The pounding on my bedroom door at 5 in the morning sounded like someone trying to break it down. My daughter-in-law's voice pierced through the wood, shrill and demanding. "Margaret, open this door right now. We need to talk." I sat on the edge of my bed, fully dressed, shoes on, purse in my lap. I had been waiting for this moment since midnight. What my daughter-in-law didn't know was that I had spent the last 3 weeks preparing for exactly this morning. And what she really didn't know was that my late husband's best friend, retired Judge William Patterson, was already parked in my driveway with a folder full of documents that would change everything. The door shook again. "Mom," my son, Derek, shouted. "Why is the garage locked? Where's Dad's car?" I walked slowly to the door and opened it just a crack. Derek stood there in his bathrobe, hair disheveled, eyes wild. Behind him, Crystal clutched her phone, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the screen. "Good morning," I said calmly. "The Mustang is no longer in the garage because it's no longer your concern." "What the hell does that mean?" Crystal pushed past Derek. "That car is worth $60,000. You can't just—" "I can," I interrupted. And I did. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a guest arriving." Right on cue, the doorbell rang. I walked past them both, down the stairs I had climbed thousands of times over 43 years of marriage, to my beloved Henry. When I opened the front door, Judge Patterson stood there in his navy suit, briefcase in hand. He nodded once, then looked past me at Derek and Crystal frozen on the staircase. "Good morning," he said, his voice carrying the weight of 30 years on the bench. "I believe we have some matters to discuss." The color drained from Crystal's face. She knew exactly who William Patterson was. Everyone in Savannah knew. And in that moment, watching her grip the banister like she might fall, I finally understood what my husband meant when he said, "Revenge is a dish best served cold." But to understand how I ended up here, standing in my own doorway like a stranger reclaiming her home, I need to take you back 4 months to the day my son asked if he could move back in. It was a Thursday afternoon in late September. The humidity had finally broken, and I was in my garden trimming the roses Henry had planted the year before he passed. My phone buzzed. It was Derek. "Mom, can Kreis and I come over tonight? We need to talk about something important." My stomach tightened. Derek only called things important when he wanted something. But he was still my son, my only child. The boy I had raised alone for 3 years after his father served in the Gulf War. "Of course, sweetheart. I'll make dinner." They arrived at 6 with 2 suitcases and their 8-year-old daughter, Emma. Crystal's smile was too wide, too bright. "Mom," she cooed, hugging me. Her perfume was expensive, the kind that costs more than my weekly groceries. "You look wonderful." "Doesn't she look wonderful, Derek?" Derek couldn't meet my eyes. That's when I knew this wasn't a visit. "What's going on?" I asked, leading them to the living room. "Sit down first, Mom." Crystal guided me to the couch like I was an invalid. "We have some difficult news." Derek cleared his throat. "The company I was working for went under. I lost my job 3 months ago." 3 months? Why didn't you tell me? "We didn't want to worry you. We've been trying to figure things out, but—" He paused. Crystal finished for him. "We lost the house, Margaret. The bank foreclosed. We have nowhere to go." I looked at little Emma sitting quietly in the corner, clutching her stuffed rabbit. My granddaughter. My heart. "You'll stay here," I said immediately. "Of course you'll stay here." Crystal's eyes glistened with tears. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. We won't be a burden, I promise. Just a few months until Derek finds something new." That night, I gave them the master bedroom. "You need the space," I insisted. "I'll take the guest room." "Are you sure?" Crystal asked, already eyeing my grandmother's antique dresser. "It's just temporary." I moved my clothes, my toiletries, my wedding photo. The room I had shared with Henry for 4 decades became theirs overnight. Looking back, I should have seen the signs from the very first week. Crystal had opinions about everything. The house was too dark, too cluttered, too old-fashioned. "We should really update the kitchen," she said one morning, running her hand along the countertops Henry had installed himself. These cabinets are ancient. Henry built those cabinets, I said quietly. I know, but he's been gone 3 years, Margaret. It's okay to move on. She didn't ask permission to move the furniture. One day I came home from my volunteer shift at the hospital to find the living room completely rearranged. My reading chair, the one by the window where I'd spent countless evenings with Henry, was now in the garage. It didn't go with the new flow, Crystal explained. But where will I sit to read? She laughed, like I'd told a joke. Margaret, you can sit anywhere. It's just a chair. It wasn't just a chair. It was the chair where Henry proposed a second time on our 20th anniversary, getting down on one knee with the same ring, asking if I'd do it all over again. But I didn't say that. I just smiled and said nothing. The second week, she reorganized my closet, helped me sort through Henry's belongings. You really should donate these, she said, holding up his flannel shirts. It's not healthy to keep a dead man's wardrobe. I'll think about it. I already bagged them up. The donation truck comes tomorrow. I found the bags in the garage that night and hid 3 shirts in my suitcase, the ones that still smelled like him. By the 3rd week, Crystal had redecorated the guest bathroom, painted Emma's room without asking, and replaced my grandmother's handmade curtains with gray linen from a catalog. Modern and minimal, she declared. This house needed an update desperately. Derek said nothing. He spent his days on the couch watching television, occasionally scrolling through job listings on his phone, never actually applying. I'm being selective, he told me when I asked. I don't want to take just anything. Crystal controlled the money, the schedule, the household. She decided what we ate, when we slept, where things belonged. My home had become her kingdom, and I was merely a guest paying the mortgage. But the true violation came in October, 6 weeks after they moved in. I kept my jewelry in a safety deposit box at the bank, but the pieces I wore regularly stayed in my bedroom. Henry had given me a pearl necklace on our 10th anniversary, a diamond bracelet on our 25th, and his mother's sapphire ring when she passed. One evening, I went to my jewelry box to get the pearl necklace for church. It was empty. I checked everywhere, thinking I had misplaced things, but the bracelet was gone too. And the sapphire ring. I found Crystal in the kitchen making dinner. Have you seen my jewelry box? Some pieces seem to be missing. She didn't look up from the stove. Oh, those? I took them to get appraised. Some of those settings looked loose. I didn't want you losing a stone. You took my jewelry without asking? I was doing you a favor, Margaret. Don't be dramatic. 2 days later, I asked for the pieces back. Crystal sighed heavily. The jeweler said the ring was damaged. He had to send it out for repair. Which jeweler? I'll pick it up myself. I don't remember the name. It was Derek's friend. He got us a deal. A deal. On my mother-in-law's sapphire ring. On my wedding anniversary pearls. I called every jeweler in Savannah. None of them had received any pieces matching my description. When I confronted Crystal again, she turned defensive. I told you, it was Derek's friend. He's very reputable. You're being paranoid. I want my jewelry back. Now. Her voice turned cold. I sold them, okay? We needed money for bills. Your utility bills, your property taxes. You think this house runs itself? We've been supporting you for 2 months, and you're upset about some old costume jewelry? Costume jewelry? The bracelet alone was worth $8,000. The ring was appraised at $12,000. Those were gifts from my husband. Crystal rolled her eyes. Henry's dead, Margaret. He doesn't care what happens to his jewelry. But his son and granddaughter are alive and struggling. I thought you'd want to help your family. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. She had stolen my treasures and twisted it into my obligation. That night, I told Derek what his wife had done. Mom, calm down. Cries was just trying to help. We really did need the money for bills. She sold my wedding jewelry without asking. It's not like you were using it. Most of that stuff just sat in a box. That doesn't give her the right to sell it. He sighed like I was exhausting him. Can we talk about this later? The game is on. I went to my room and cried for the first time since Henry's funeral. But I wasn't just crying over jewelry. I was crying because I finally understood that my son had become someone I didn't recognize, and I was completely alone. 2 weeks later, Crystal came to me with concern painted across her face. "Margaret, I've been meaning to talk to you about something delicate." She sat across from me in the kitchen, hands folded, eyes soft. "Derek and I have been talking, and we're worried about you." "Worried about what?" "Your memory. You've been forgetting things, getting confused. Last week you couldn't find your car keys for an hour. You left the stove on twice. And that whole jewelry situation, getting upset over things you probably just misplaced." My blood ran cold. "I didn't misplace anything. You admitted you sold them." She tilted her head sympathetically. "See, that's what I mean. I never said that. I said I took them for repair. But you've convinced yourself of this whole elaborate story." She reached over and touched my hand. "We think you should see a doctor. Get evaluated. There are some wonderful memory care facilities in the area. Derek and I could help manage the house while you get the care you need." Memory care. A nursing home. That's what she meant. I don't need a nursing home. My mind is perfectly fine. Of course you'd say that. That's how these conditions work. You don't realize how bad things have gotten. She pulled out a brochure from her purse. Magnolia Springs. It's lovely, really. Only $3,000 a month. Derek and I would visit you every week. And what happens to my house while I'm at Magnolia Springs? She smiled sweetly. We'd take care of it, keep it in the family. Eventually, we could sell it and use the money for your care. It's actually very practical. I looked at the brochure. The glossy photos of smiling elderly people doing crafts. The fine print about transferred assets and power of attorney. That's when I understood. This was never about helping. This was about taking everything I had. But Crystal made one critical mistake. She assumed that because I was old, I was stupid. She didn't know that I had worked as a surgical nurse for 35 years. I had dealt with manipulators, liars, and sociopaths. I knew how to document, how to protect myself, how to build an airtight case. The next morning, I called William Patterson. He had been Henry's college roommate, best man at our wedding, and the godfather to Derek. For 30 years, he had served as a circuit court judge before retiring. "Margaret," he said warmly, "how are you holding up? I need your help, William, and I need you to keep it completely confidential, even from Derek." The pause on the line was brief. "Tell me everything." I did. Every detail, every manipulation, every theft. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Henry always worried about this," he finally said. "He loved Derek, but he saw Crystal clearly. Before he died, he asked me to look out for you if anything happened. I gave him my word. What can I do? First, we document everything. Then we secure your assets. Have you signed anything over to them? Given Crystal access to any accounts?" "No. Nothing." "Good. Keep it that way. I'm going to draft some documents. And Margaret, I need you to do something difficult. I need you to pretend nothing is wrong. Let Crystal think her plan is working. Meanwhile, we build our case." For 3 weeks, I played along. I acted confused, misplaced things intentionally, agreed that maybe I should see a doctor about my memory. Crystal was thrilled. "You're making the right decision, Margaret. We just want what's best for you." Behind closed doors, I gathered every piece of evidence I could find. I discovered that Derek had been running up credit cards in my name. Over $17,000 in debt I knew nothing about. I found pawn shop receipts for my jewelry. The ring had sold for $600, the bracelet for $400, the pearls for $350. Crystal had lied about the values, pocketed the difference. I photographed everything, recorded conversations on my phone, documented every manipulation in a journal with dates and times, and I transferred the title of Henry's 1967 Mustang, worth $62,000, to William's name for safekeeping. Crystal had been eyeing that car for months. She wasn't getting it. One night, I overheard them talking in what used to be my bedroom. "How much longer?" Crystal asked. "The paperwork for power of attorney takes time. I don't want to spend another winter in this house. Once we have control of her accounts, we can move things along." "She has almost 200,000 in savings," Derek said, "plus the house is worth at least 350. We could sell everything and finally live the life we deserve." "What about Emma?" Crystal laughed. "She'll adjust. Kids are resilient. Besides, once the old lady is in the home, we won't have to pretend anymore." My hands trembled as I stood in the hallway. My own son, the child I had rocked to sleep, the boy I had sacrificed everything for, was planning to steal my life savings and abandon me in a facility. The pain was beyond words. But the pain became fuel. The next morning, I met William at his office. He presented me with a complete estate plan. Irrevocable trust for the house, protecting it from any claims. New will excluding Derek unless he met specific conditions that included repaying all stolen funds and completing 1 year of financial counseling. Revoked all previous documents that might have given Derek or Crystal any authority over my affairs. "Once you sign these," William explained, "they cannot touch your assets. The trust is unbreakable. Even if they tried to have you declared incompetent, the successor trustee is my daughter, attorney Patricia Patterson. She'll protect everything." I signed every page with steady hands. "There's one more thing," I said. "I want them out of my house. But I want them to know exactly why." William nodded. "I thought you might. That's why I've prepared these." He handed me copies of the pawn receipts, the credit card statements, the recorded conversations transcribed and notarized. "When you're ready, we confront them together. Tomorrow morning," I said. "I've waited long enough." That night, I quietly changed every lock in the house while they slept. I moved Henry's Mustang to William's garage at midnight, and I set my alarm for 4:30 in the morning, 2 hours before Crystal usually woke up. By the time Crystal pounded on my bedroom door, demanding to know what was happening, I had already showered, dressed, and prepared myself for the battle ahead. And when William Patterson walked through my front door, briefcase full of evidence, the look on Crystal's face was worth every tear I had shed in the past 4 months. "What is he doing here?" Crystal demanded as we gathered in the living room. Derek stood behind her, pale and confused. "This is a family matter." "Judge Patterson is family," I said. "He's been part of our lives since before Derek was born, which is more than I can say for you. Margaret, you're clearly upset. Let's all calm down and sit down." My voice was firm. "Both of you. It's time you understood exactly what you've done." Crystal opened her mouth to protest, but William stepped forward. "I strongly suggest you comply. What happens in the next hour will determine whether my client pursues criminal charges." Criminal charges. Those 2 words sucked the air from the room. They sat. "4 months ago," I began, "you came to my home claiming you needed help. I gave you everything. My bedroom, my kitchen, my savings to cover expenses you said were piling up, and in return, you systematically tried to destroy me." "That's ridiculous," Crystal started. William held up his hand. "Let her finish. You'll have your opportunity to respond. You stole my wedding jewelry and sold it for pennies on the dollar. You opened credit cards in my name and ran up $17,000 in debt. You tried to convince me I was losing my mind so you could have me declared incompetent and take control of my assets." I pulled the folder from my lap and placed document after document on the coffee table. Pawn shop receipts, credit card statements, bank records, and this. I held up my phone and pressed play. Crystal's voice filled the room. "Once we have control of her accounts, we can move things along. She has almost 200,000 in savings. Plus, the house is worth at least 350. Then Derek's voice. "We could sell everything and finally live the life we deserve." I stopped the recording. Derek was crying now. "Mom, I didn't mean don't." I cut him off. "Don't you dare say you didn't mean it. I heard you, Derek. I heard my only son plotting to throw me away like garbage so he could steal my home." Crystal's mask finally cracked. You were listening? You recorded us? Every word. William spoke now, his voice carrying the authority of 3 decades on the bench. Mrs. Crystal, I have prepared documentation of theft, fraud, and elder abuse. The theft of jewelry alone constitutes grand larceny under Georgia law, punishable by up to 10 years in prison. The credit card fraud is a separate felony. And the recorded conspiracy to commit financial exploitation of an elderly person carries its own set of penalties. Crystal's face went white. You can't prove any of this. I have sworn statements from 3 pawn shops identifying you as the seller. I have credit card applications with forged signatures that handwriting experts have verified. And I have hours of recorded conversations in which you outline your entire scheme. He placed a final document on the table. This property has been placed in an irrevocable trust. Margaret retains lifetime residence and full control. The beneficiary is her granddaughter Emma, who will inherit when she turns 25. Derek is specifically excluded unless he meets conditions that include full restitution of all stolen funds plus interest. Derek grabbed the document, scanning it desperately. You can't do this. I'm your son. I have rights. You have no rights to anything that belongs to me, I said, and you lost the right to call yourself my son when you decided I had lived long enough to serve your purposes. Those were his words thrown back at him. He flinched like I had slapped him. You have 48 hours to vacate this property, William continued. Take your personal belongings only, anything belonging to Mrs. Margaret. Any item from this house will be considered theft and prosecuted accordingly. Crystal stood up, shaking with rage. This is insane. We're not going anywhere. This is our home too. We have tenant rights. You have been guests, not tenants. No lease exists. No rent has been paid. But if you'd prefer, I can have the sheriff here within the hour to escort you out personally. Your choice. The fight drained from her face. She turned to Derek. Say something. She's your mother. Derek looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize anymore. Mom, please. Think about Emma, your granddaughter. If you kick us out, where will she go? My heart twisted. Emma, my beautiful granddaughter who had nothing to do with her parents' cruelty. Emma is welcome in this house anytime she wants. My door will always be open to her. But you and Crystal are no longer welcome here. That's final. Crystal grabbed her phone. I'm calling a lawyer. By all means, William said. I look forward to explaining to your attorney how you defrauded a 71-year-old widow out of her jewelry, her credit, and nearly her sanity. I'm certain they'll be eager to take your case. She stormed upstairs. Derek stayed frozen. Mom, I'm sorry. I really am. Crystal pushed me into this. She said it was the only way we could get back on our feet. Crystal didn't forge my signature on credit card applications, Derek. You did. I had the handwriting analyzed. His face crumbled. I was desperate. Desperate enough to betray your mother. Desperate enough to plan, putting me in a home so you could sell my house. Desperate enough to become everything your father worked his whole life teaching you not to be. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. Pack your things. Be out by Friday at 6. And Derek, if you ever want a relationship with me again, start by getting help. Therapy, financial counseling, whatever it takes. But until you do the real work of becoming a decent person, I can't have you in my life. He left the room without another word. William stayed behind. How are you feeling? Tired, relieved, heartbroken. Henry would be proud of you, would he? I just cut off our only son. You protected yourself from people who were hurting you. That's not cruelty. That's survival. I walked to the window and looked out at Henry's rose garden, now overgrown and neglected. She destroyed so much. Things can be rebuilt. Gardens can grow back. But your spirit, your dignity, that's what they were really trying to take. And you didn't let them. Friday came quickly. I watched from the kitchen as Derek loaded boxes into their car. Crystal refused to look at me. Emma came running in, throwing her arms around me. Grandma, why do we have to leave? Did I do something wrong? I knelt down and held her face in my hands. No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. Grown-ups sometimes have problems they need to work out. But I love you, and I always will. You can call me anytime, and when you're older, you'll always have a home here." She hugged me tight, then ran to the car. I watched them drive away, my son in the passenger seat, my granddaughter's face pressed against the back window. I didn't cry until the car turned the corner, then I sobbed for hours. For the boy I raised, the man he became, the relationship I had lost. But somewhere in the grief, there was also relief. The weight of their presence, their manipulation, their constant demands, all of it lifted from my shoulders. That night, I ate dinner alone in my kitchen. I played Henry's old jazz records. I sat in my reading chair, retrieved from the garage, and returned to its rightful place by the window. And I began planning how to rebuild my garden. 6 months later, I received a letter from Derek. He had completed 3 months of therapy. He had gotten a job, a real one, at a logistics company. He and Crystal had separated. She had moved to Florida with another man she'd met online. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he wrote. "And I'm not asking for it. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying to become the person Dad raised me to be. I'm sorry for everything. I love you, Mom. I always did. I just forgot how to show it." I read the letter 3 times. Then I called William. "What do you think I should do?" "That's not for me to say, Margaret. Forgiveness is personal. But I'll tell you what Henry told me once, a long time ago." He said, "Will, my son has a good heart buried under a lot of confusion. If anything ever happens to me, don't give up on him. Just make sure Margaret is protected first. You've protected yourself. Now the question is whether you're ready to leave the door open just a crack." I thought about it for a week. Then I wrote Derek back. 2 lines. "I'm not ready yet, but keep trying." That was a year ago. We've spoken on the phone a few times. He came for Christmas with Emma, just the 2 of them. We had dinner. We didn't talk about what happened, but when he hugged me goodbye, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. I still live in my house. Alone, but not lonely. William's daughter, Patricia, checks on me weekly. Emma spends weekends here sometimes, helping me in the garden. The roses are blooming again. Brighter than ever. Last month, I found a box in the attic while cleaning. Inside were letters Henry had written me over the years, birthday cards, anniversary notes, little messages he would leave on my pillow. At the bottom was a sealed envelope addressed to me, dated 1 week before he died. I opened it, with trembling hands. "My dearest Margaret, if you're reading this, I'm no longer with you. And for that I am so deeply sorry. I wanted 100 more years with you. But if I know anything about life, it's that it rarely gives us what we want. What I want you to remember is this. You are stronger than you know. You have survived everything life has thrown at you, and you will survive whatever comes next. Don't let anyone, not even our son, make you feel small or worthless. You are the love of my life. You are the strongest woman I have ever known, and if anyone tries to take what we built together, fight back. Fight with everything you have, because you deserve to live out your days in peace, in our home, surrounded by the memories we made together. I will be watching over you. Always. All my love, Henry." I held that letter to my chest and cried, but not from sadness, from gratitude, from love, from the certain knowledge that even in death, Henry was still protecting me. If you're listening to this, and you recognize yourself in my story, if someone in your life is slowly erasing you, taking what's yours, making you doubt your own mind, please hear me. You are not crazy. You are not a burden. You are not too old to fight back. The people who love you will never make you feel worthless, and the ones who do, they don't deserve you. Set boundaries, protect yourself, reach out to someone you trust, and never, ever let anyone convince you that you don't matter. Because you do. You matter more than you know. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helped you in any way, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, it's never too late to reclaim your life. Stay strong, friends. I'll see you in the next one.